Stop sharing my screen.
You want me to bring up the agenda? Is that what you want to show?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the town hall. I am now turning this over to Councilwoman Shalonda Webb.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedules to come and see what's going on in your community. I am so thrilled that you all are here today. I am thankful that you are engaged and you're ready to be a partner in the transformation of North County. So before I go any longer, I want to take a time to introduce each of the panelists that have joined us today. I didn't see everyone, but I'll try to go through the list. If I miss someone on the panel, please don't hesitate to speak up. We're all family here. And so we just want to make sure that we recognize everybody that's on our panel. I'll introduce everybody by their name and title first. And after I introduce them by their name and title, we'll allow them to greet everyone that's on the Zoom call today. So to start off, I don't see our county executive. So we're going to move forward to his representative in his office, Ms. Cora Faith Walker. She's the Chief Policy Officer for the Office of the St. Louis County Exec. Ms. Walker, welcome today.
Good evening, Councilwoman Webb and everyone. Thank you so much for having us this evening, and I'm sure Dr. Page will be on momentarily.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Also, I don't see on the call Mr. Moppin, so I'm going to move past him and move on to Ms. Jacqueline Wellington, who I always call Ms. Jackie. Ms. Jackie is the managing partner of the Community and Economic Development Solutions. And so she's joining us today. She will be one of our main presenters. Again, welcome, Ms. Jackie.
Thank you, Councilwoman Webb, for inviting us to represent the port at your town hall regarding Jamestown Mall. I just got a text message from John Maupin, who's the chair of the port, indicating that he is trying to install WebEx and join the call. So he should be with us shortly.
Oh, we're in this time. We're all used to technical difficulties, so we'll be patient
Yes.
to let him join us. I'm going to go back up. I see County Executive Dr. Sam Page has joined us. Greetings, Dr. Page. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to greet the audience today.
Thank you, Shalonda. I have a few remarks. Would you like me to give them now, or would you like me to wait till later in the program?
We're going to wait until later in the program.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting me join you.
You're welcome. And also we have Ms. Elizabeth Noonan, who is also a partner with Ms. Jackie with the Partners in Community and Economic Development Solutions. So welcome, Ms. Noonan.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you again. We're looking forward to it.
Awesome, awesome. I am grateful for all of the panelists that was able to join us today. But before we get started, I cannot. She was the first person to speak, but I want you all to welcome your district legislative assistants, Ms. Shantae Harmon Young.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay, at this time that we've all introduced ourselves, we have some remarks. But before we go into remarks, I would like to set the format of the meeting tonight. Mr. Rob, could you display the actual agenda for today?
Yeah, I'm having problems with Word not opening up the document, so I'm going to pass it over to Shantae and see if she can share it. I apologize. I don't know why it's not allowing me to present the document. I apologize. It was attached for everyone to the event as well.
Okay, well, we don't have to get hung up on the agenda. Are you happy, Shantae? Awesome.
There you go. Okay.
Another technical Zoom WebEx issue. So everybody, today before you see the agenda for today's meeting. It is a town hall meeting to focus on your community The format of the meeting will go as follows. We've already introduced our panelists. After this, we will allow our panelists to actually speak and greet you. We'll first have remarks by the county executive, followed by a presentation by the representatives from the Port Authority. And then we want to hear from you, North County. This project, this development of Jamestown Mall has been going on a long time. We've all been anxiously waiting to hear the good news of what's coming forth for Jamestown Mall development. In this meeting tonight, I don't want a community to think it's a one and done meeting. This will be the first of a series of meetings as we go through this project so you can stay informed and be able to voice your concerns, your feedback, even your praise of how things are going forth. So again, I want to make sure that everybody who hears my voice know that this is just the beginning for us. It's a journey for this project. It's been long awaited. And so we want to make sure that we are informed every step of the way. We want to hear from you, and you will always have your voice welcome at this table. With that shared, I want to also make sure that you have an opportunity to engage throughout the presentation. So for those of us who have the technology, you're welcome to put your questions in the chat at all times. Now, we will not answer the questions in the chat, until the end of the Port Authority presentation. After that presentation, we'll go into the chat questions and make sure that our panelists and those who are informed, who are aware of what's going on, can answer those accordingly. After those chat questions, we will also open up the line so all of our community will have an opportunity to speak. Well, let me quantify that. We will have 2-minute comments for 30 minutes. We will acknowledge the person in first come, first serve order. I hope that's clear for everyone. Before we jump into that segment of today's agenda, I will make that announcement again so everyone will be clear and on the same page. With that being shared, our first speaker up is Dr. Sam Page.
Thank you, Shalonda. Councilwoman Webb, thanks for organizing tonight, and thanks for Jackie Wellington for joining us from the Port Authority. Jackie will give a great overview of the history of Jamestown Mall, what's been happening over the past decade, what's been proposed, and part of the path forward as we talk about this latest proposal, which is the farthest along we've gotten with an opportunity to redevelop Jamestown Mall really for and ever. So thanks again to Shalonda for engaging everyone. We want to find a use for this site that serves the needs of the community. That means restoring the tax base. That means cleaning up the site and providing jobs for the community and having a real conversation about what services that we could provide that could be at this site. We're all hands on deck for this. We are engaging everyone. We're engaging our federal lobby team to look for resources to help with this project. We're engaging our Jefferson City lobby team to look for ways to clean up any sort of hazardous material that we might encounter. And the Port Authority, who has ownership and control over this project, is the first interface with the contracting opportunity to sell and dispose of this property. The Port Authority is appointed by the County Council and is responsible for any real estate deals. And then after the Port Authority is able to engage a sale, that sale is conditional on rezoning. So this process will continue. As Councilwoman Webb said, this is the first of many conversations on this new and newest opportunity to redevelop the project. After the Port Authority has a contract, then the new proposal is presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission in a process that takes sometimes 5 or 6 months. That is an open and a transparent process. And I'm going to ask the Planning Department to set up a web page for all these details to be easily visible for anyone in the community to review and to make it easier to follow along and participate in this process of public hearings in the Planning and Zoning Commission. Once the Planning and Zoning Commission has a recommendation, then that proposal goes to the County Council. And of course, we're all going to be listening very closely to the input and feedback from the community to make sure that this project is a good fit for the community. And that's why your participation tonight and in the months ahead, and this process could take a year before we have a final decision for the months ahead to make sure that this is a good fit. So we'll need your engagement tonight, the public hearings along the way, the Planning and Zoning Commission process, and then once it gets through the Planning and Zoning Commission and making it through that point, then this would go to the County Council. It needs the support of the County Council, and it will need my signature to become law and to become a proposal to move forward. Once this passes the County Council and they have rezoning, then the opportunity for construction starts. That is a process that takes building permits and site permits. So again, the planning department reviews the building permits and site permits to make sure they comply with the expectations of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the County Council. And that process can take several months. So the conversation we're having tonight is the first of a long conversation, many opportunities for public participation, many opportunities for your engagement. And my commitment to you tonight and the commitment of my administration is to make sure everyone is fully engaged, everyone knows exactly what's happening, everyone has the opportunity to understand the complexity of this project, the opportunity to participate in the conversation, and to make sure that whatever comes of this site moving forward is something that has wide support in the community. I really appreciate the invitation to speak here tonight, to be a part of this. Councilwoman Webb and I will be working together to address this very, very complex issue that's been really a topic of conversation for over a decade. I have another meeting to get to tonight. I'll be listening for a bit. And Cora Faith Walker, who is my Chief of Policy, will be listening as well. We also have our Director of Planning, Gail Choate, on the call tonight. And we'll be following along this very closely and making sure that everyone in the community has an opportunity for full engagement. Thank you, Councilwoman Webb, for allowing me to make a few comments.
Thank you, County Executive Dr. Sam Page. We appreciate you joining us today. And I want to make sure all of the community, all of the North County District 4 family hears that we are in this together. And as Dr. Page mentioned, and he's an advocate for, that we want to bring forth what is healthy and supported by the community. So we will be working on this project to do just that, what's healthy and best for the community based on their feedback. At this time, we are a little ahead of the schedule, which is very unusual for me, North County. My husband and my children would attest to that. I'm always pushing it to the last minute. But today we're ahead of schedule and I'm grateful for that. Thank you, Dr. Page, for joining us. I know you have to go to another commitment. So again, we thank you for joining us. Miss Jackie, we're ahead of schedule, but are you okay to push forward?
Had to unmute technology here. Okay. I'm joined here by Beth Noonan, as you indicated. We are the partners with Community Economic Development Solutions. We serve as programmatic staff for the St. Louis County Port Authority. So we are here on their behalf. And just so you know, John Maupin, who is the chair, wasn't able to join the video, but he is on the phone and he is listening in. So if you'd like to have him make some comments, he is available. Okay. This evening, the purpose of our presentation is basically to provide a context for how we got to where we are with Jamestown Mall. What we'll be addressing is the background and the history of Jamestown Mall in the current state that it's in. And I think, Beth, we have a PowerPoint that we're going to put up on the screen.
Yes, I need to be able to share my screen though.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
You are presenter, Beth.
all right, thank you.
Okay. Give us a minute.
Can everyone
and we'll
see
get
okay?
started. There we go. Yes. Okay. In addition to the background and history, we'll also be talking about all of the efforts that have been put into place by the public entities, and those are the Economic Development Partnership, previously the Economic Council, because this goes back to 2007, actually, when these entities started to look at Jamestown Mall and try to determine what was actually going on there and what role public entities could play in helping revitalize that area. In addition to the partnership, the Port Authority and St. Louis County, the Planning Department, they've always been involved with us with all of the efforts that we undertook. In the course of this, there have been a number of reports, planning efforts, community engagement activities where we got feedback from the community that we have initiated along the way. So Beth is going to start the presentation and I'll be back with you shortly.
Thanks, Jackie. So just to give you a little bit of background and provide some context, we thought it'd be helpful to sort of start off with putting out there the place of Jamestown Mall. So Jamestown Mall is a large site. The mall is comprised of 4 anchor buildings along with the inline mall, representing over 1 million square feet of retail space, which is a big, big building. The site itself is almost 143 acres and is bounded on the east and south by undeveloped area, undeveloped land and residential area, and by Lindbergh and Old Jamestown Road on the other side. The property was acquired by the Port Authority. It was multiple parcels. Actually, 6 different entities owned the Jamestown Mall property itself. So it was a significant undertaking to acquire it. One of the portion of the property is impacted by the Coldwater Creek, which makes that area undevelopable. But the balance of it is a significant property. In terms of the current state, it's unfortunate, as these photos illustrate, there's been extensive and significant ongoing vandalism at the mall. There's been a significant amount of people entering, notwithstanding our efforts to prevent access to the building. That includes a significant fire that occurred in June of this year that did significant damage to the Macy's building, as well as the Dillard's building, and actually compromised the structural integrity at the Macy's building. In addition, over the course of years prior to this, there were salvage operations that were conducted that ended up removing significant amounts of items from the building itself. Anything that was saleable, including lights, escalators, metals, and so on, were removed. In addition to the damage that you've seen that was done by people, there's also been just deterioration that's resulted in leaking roofs. And as you can see from the photo here, there is some significant mold and contamination in the building at this point, and a lot of mold issues that are come as the result of water coming into the building. There's also some asbestos-containing materials in the building that will have to be removed. We've had some significant issues with multiple water lines breaking, and the photograph down on the edge of the slide shows the impact of that. The water lines broke and then created voids, which caused some collapse of the parking lots. We have, given the amount of issues with vandalism, worked very hard and diligently to try and ensure that the building is secured and boarded up. There's also jersey barriers and chains that have limited access. In addition, we have tried to make sure that the property has been maintained and cut during the summer months, but it is still an ongoing effort and challenge. In terms of actual development, the timeline for the mall was actually constructed and opened in 1973. It had a Stick-Spare and Fuller, which I remember, and that later became a Dillard's and the Sears, along with the inline mall. Many years later, in an effort to sort of expand and revitalize the retail operations there, the mall added 2 anchor tenants, Famous Bar, which became Macy's, as well as JCPenney. They also expanded the theater and food court in order to make it a more appealing appealing place to attract new customers and clients. In 2003, the Carlisle Development Group acquired the inline mall from the original developer. As you may recall, I said there were 6 different organizations or firms that owned the property. They purchased the inline mall. Subsequently, the Dillards did close in 2006. Carlisle did announce in 2008 a $120 million plan for mixed-use development. At that point in time, the inline mall occupancy rate was at 44%. Unfortunately, the 2008 was sort of at the beginning of the economic crisis, and so there were some significant challenges that Carlisle faced. Those challenges were reflected in the slow closure over time of the remaining mall. 2009, Sears closed. Then in 2013, the JCPenney outlet closed. By 2013, the mall occupancy rate in the inline mall was only 25%. Macy's finally closed in 2014, and then the mall itself closed permanently. Throughout 2015 through 2017, the Port Authority acquired the multiple parcels comprising the mall site. You can see with a almost 2-year process to acquire the actual properties that it is a long-term process to assemble this property, given the number of owners of them. In an effort to support the Carlisle Group's desires to redevelop the mall, the Urban Land Institute was called in. They brought an expert panel of national panelists from across the country to provide an assessment of the situation at Jamestown Mall, specifically to really look at to evaluate the market for Jamestown Mall as a mall, and what other opportunities might be there, to identify what will ultimately be the highest and best use of the property, and then to identify strategies for transforming or reimagining the mall. One of the key findings of the ULI panel was the sort of underpinnings of why Jamestown Mall did not succeed as a regional mall. At the time it was developed in the early 70s, there was the anticipation that North County, the outermost areas of North County, would continue to grow, experience residential growth. And it was also anticipated that the mall, given its location, would attract consumers from the Alton market. Two key items that really undermined that the growth in the market was the fact that the residential land around the mall and in much of North County, in this area, was undevelopable based on the karst topography, that made building infeasible. Additionally, after the mall was constructed, after Jamestown was constructed, Alton Square Mall was opened, and that then eliminated or captured that anticipated market from Illinois. Ultimately, the conclusion was, and then the chart here, you can see what was anticipated would be needed to support a standard regional mall, and what the situation and circumstances were in the area that was impacting the operation and continued vibrancy of Jamestown. Ultimately, this was a very targeted and intense process. It was a short-term, immediate assessment of Jamestown and the opportunities and challenges. The recommendations from the ULI panel was that mixed-use redevelopment was a potential opportunity based on the demand that they saw in 2009. The idea for retail really focused on community and local serving, retail outlets, restaurants, specialty stores, pharmacy. So very much more community retail services. The idea of the development for residential also included the concept of doing something more intense rather than single family homes. So potential for attracting empty nesters or seniors. Additionally, in terms of office tenants and the opportunities for office development on the site, again, focused on sort of local community serving kinds of office tenants, professional services like dentists, doctors, and then potentially childcare facilities, things like that. The community also, I think based on their assessment, they found that there would be some opportunity to utilize Jamestown Mall to include some kind of recreational or family outlet, institutional type outlet, leveraging that sort of nearby area, the natural assets of the surrounding community, as well as the wildlife. So those were some potential ideas that the ULI report identified. Next steps really were focused on conducting a much more comprehensive planning effort. The idea was, again, to conduct additional community engagement and community visioning in order to sort of create a guidance document or a guidance for future planning, to develop a really truly detailed development plan for the site, and to complete a full market analysis to understand what were the true opportunities. And finally, to ensure that the county would actively participate in fostering redevelopment. Jackie, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Following the recommendations of the Urban Land Institute Advisory Panel that was brought in 2009, Dover, Kohl and Partners was retained. They're a national planning consulting company that was brought in to do a much more in-depth and extensive engagement with the community, to do an evaluation of what would be the best and highest use for the Jamestown Mall site, given the fact that it had been determined that it would not be a retail mall in the future because there was just not the support in the community in order to be able to maintain it as that use. Thank you. Basically, so with the Dover Kohl exercise, and they were here for 3-4 months, working with the community, doing surveys in the community, having charrettes. There were a number of meetings held at Jamestown Mall, as well as Florissant Valley Community College, where the community was brought in, and you can see from the pictures where there were hands-on sessions for them to work through exactly what their thinking was and what their desires were for redevelopment of the mall property. So they developed a very extensive engagement program that solicited community participation and engagement to try to build consensus around what could potentially be on that site moving forward into the future. They did an extensive market analysis of the site to inform their recommendations, where they looked at a lot of analytical data regarding what it would take in order to be able to support whatever it was ended up going onto that site. After the engagement process was concluded, they basically came back with a concept for a mixed-use village that would serve as an anchor and a center for the community. Essentially, it was a community basically within a community with services that not only served the development on the site, but also provided resources for the larger community. They determined that there was a need in the community for a number of different type of residential offerings, everything from single-family homes, multifamily, to senior housing, along with retail that would support that development going into onto the site. There was also a concept, because of the Coldwater Creek running through the lower portion of the mall, and that property being basically undevelopable, that could be a green space or some kind of a park amenity that would be available to the larger community. Part of their recommendations, as they looked through it, as I indicated, they went through a very extensive detailed process for coming to their recommendations as to what could potentially go on the site. They not only looked at the various options that were of interest to folks in the community, but they viewed them through the lens of the risk factors. What were the risks for any developer looking to go onto this site and redevelop it in this fashion as a mixed-use village? They looked at the cost associated with it, as well as the return on investment. Any developer that goes in and does the development is going to look to make money on the project. So is it viable enough that a developer could get a return on their investment? They also looked at the needs, basically the non-financial benefits that would inure to the community. And finally, they really looked at the location. Jamestown Mall is kind of in a corner of North County, or on the other side of Lindbergh, as Beth indicated. It's karst topography, it's not a lot of development there. And at the time in 2011, you'll recall 367 did not look like it looks today. So that was another consideration with that. Jamestown Mall was always considered a very complex project, and it would be a significant undertaking in order to be able to redevelop the area. As Beth indicated, there were 6 owners. That in and of itself required a lot of engagement with not only the owners of each of those anchor stores, but also engagement with the owner of the inline mall. But as Beth indicated, the Port Authority was successful in acquiring all of the mall in 2017. Also included in the Kohl report was a timeline for implementation of the concept that was enumerated in their plan. Their plan basically laid out a 15+ year timeline from the time of that report as to when you could anticipate seeing any significant development on the site. The first 5 years was really focused on acquiring the mall, assessing the infrastructure that was there, and positioning it for development to occur. Then there was a midterm section, and then there was the longer term, which was in excess of 15 years. But the key to all of this was actually the cost associated with it. Their low estimate for redeveloping the mall, and this is on a 15+ year time frame, was roughly $267 million, going up to a high of about $322 million. And we have to remember, these were 2011 dollars that they were indicating with this. So today it would cost significantly more to create the mixed-use village concept that they had put in, that they had indicated with that. We all know that there are a lot of dead malls all over the United States. Some of them have been successfully redeveloped, but they are very challenging and very, very difficult to redevelop and bring in a different alternative use. Following the Kohl report, after the mall was acquired by the Port Authority, there was another community engagement process also put in place in 2018. Vector Communications was hired to do a survey, as well as have focus groups to look at the mall and to understand what at that time in 2018, since the previous one was in 2011, the community was interested in. They focused on some key areas, generally around job creation, workforce, revenues being generated for the site, and then a lot of the infrastructure-based issues, like the upgrades that would have to occur, as well as public safety issues, as well as streetscape improvements. And then last but not least, they really wanted to focus on the utilization of minority women and veteran businesses in being able to redevelop the mall. The conclusion of that community engagement process basically identified 3 top factors that were of primary interest to the residents in North County that participated in the engagement processes. Number 1 was the creation of jobs for North County residents. The second was exactly the site use. They looked at being used for business purposes, residential or mixed use. All of those things were identified as being something that the community was interested in seeing there. And finally, the last factor that they looked at was generation of revenue for the county with that. Okay. As I indicated earlier, the county has had a longstanding role and relationship with Jamestown Mall. When the previous owner, the Carlisle Group, back in, I believe it was 2008, came up with their concept for redeveloping the mall, there were significant efforts by the county, the Economic Council, the Port Authority to try to support that effort, which was why we did the Dover Kohl plan, and rather not the Dover Kohl, but they brought in the ULI panel to assist them with that. So all of the public entities, we've supported all of the planning studies and reports. The Port Authority went even further when Carlisle indicated that they were no longer interested in redevelopment property. The port acquired the property, consolidating it so that it could be made available to someone for redevelopment. The only thing that they did subdivide a parcel off that's now in private ownership in 2014 and again in 2016 in order to try to expedite and assist with redevelopment of the mall. The Land Clearance for Redevelopment Authority actually prepared a blighting analysis and plan for the site, which they presented to the county council at the time in an attempt to get the property blighted, which would allow public entities to market the property to different entities. Unfortunately, neither of those efforts to have the property blighted was approved by the county council. The commission, the Port Authority rather, has commissioned some extensive due diligence on the site so that there is quite a bit of information available for a prospective developer. We've done, as Beth indicated, an evaluation of the asbestos containing materials in the building, so we have a sense of what that would cost. Because of the water line issues that impacted the parking lots, we did geotech work so that we understand the underlying substrate in the site so that we understand how you can build on it and what the challenges may be with that. And then additionally, we've done alter surveys, title searches, all of those things that we have to have in place in order to bring in a new developer. The port issued an RFP for redevelopment of the site in 2008, made all of that information available to developers. And unfortunately, in 2008, the Port Authority ceased operation for over a year. And that proposal did not move forward as a result of the cessation of operations of the port. Once the new port was put in place in 2019, one of their primary things was to look at Jamestown and see what should be the future disposition of that property. As a result of those discussions, a new RFP was issued in January of 2020, last year, and all of those materials were provided to any prospective developer. Proposals were due on the initial issuance of the RFP in April of 2020, but the port, in order to allow us more time to really try to solicit proposals for redevelopment of the site, they extended it to September of 2020, which meant that for a total of 9 months, we were out trying to find some developer or an entity that was interested in coming in and taking ownership of the site and redeveloping it. We not only did advertisement and talked to developers locally, but we did a national search. We looked at developers that had done other malls situated such as Jamestown to see if we could incentivize someone to come in and look at Jamestown. At the end of that 9-month period, we basically received 2 proposals. And those proposals were evaluated based on criteria that had been established by the Port Authority. First and foremost was the purchase price, how much the entity was willing to pay for the property. And then we looked very closely at the ability of the developer to actually acquire the mall, have the resources to do the remediation, demolition, everything that was going to be required in order to put it back in a condition where it could be redeveloped. So we looked at their creditworthiness. We looked at their track record in terms of previous projects that they've done. And then we looked at their proposed land use. In addition to that, we looked at their ability to create jobs on the site, given that that was one of the things that the community was interested in, as well as how long they had proposed to actually complete the project. And then, of course, always we have to look at the incentive package that a developer is looking for. And so that was also one of the criteria that was indicated with the RFP. Today, where we are after a 9-month window to receive proposals, the port received 2 proposals. One of those proposals has since been withdrawn. So at this point, the port is currently in the process of negotiating with one of the proposers, and they are currently conducting their due diligence as County Councilor Sam Page indicated. That's a process that they have to go through before they decide to finalize the contract with the Port Authority, at which time it will go to the planning department to go through their processes. Based on their due diligence timeframe, which the Port Authority is in control of at this point, we are looking at a public announcement probably within the next 6 weeks. Okay. That is our presentation of the history and the background on Jamestown Mall.
Thank you, Ms. Beth, and thank you, Ms. Jackie. I appreciate you all sharing your knowledge, and like we said before, set the table. Set the table for what is about to happen for Jamestown Mall and make everybody's welcome at this table. At this time, if you had questions that you actually wanted to have us ask the moderator, our district legislative assistant will be asking. And then those who would like to actually speak, you can put your name in the chat box so we can have our technical support gather your name and prepare to allow you to speak for 2 minutes. So before we go into public questions, for the community to speak on camera, we will go through the actual questions that was put in the chat box. Excuse me, I was distracted. Shantae, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. These questions are put forth before the panel, Ms. Beth and Ms. Jackie with their knowledge. But Ms. Walker, if you have any input on any of the questions asked, please don't hesitate to join in. I want to also let our audience know that if someone shares we don't have that answer, that doesn't mean that we won't answer your question. I hope that you would appreciate that people are that we're being transparent and honest and saying we don't know that answer, but we will get that answer for you. So again, I want us to have some good dialogue and feedback, and be gracious and tactful in our interactions with each other. Okay, Shantae, go ahead.
Councilwoman, did you want me to start with the 2 pre-submitted questions that we did have? And then the chat?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay. The first question is, what is the price tag to clear the area? Ms. Jackie or Ms. Beth? You're on mute.
We have not totally quantified exactly what the cost will be. We do know that we have estimates for the environmental remediation, but all of the other elements, we have not quantified those. That would have been an extraordinary exercise for the port to undertake. We look for the developer coming in to finalize those numbers.
Thank you. And the next question is, what are some viable options for Jamestown Mall?
Well, the Port Authority issued an RFP. We included all of the previous plans and studies that had been done. So we left that open to potential developers to come in and present what they felt that they would like to propose for redevelopment of the site.
So I guess this is kind of a question that was asked, but a little more in depth. There are issues with cleanup and maintenance that need to be addressed now. What is there a plan?
Well, currently the maintenance related to the property is being undertaken by the Port Authority, and we are not looking to do any of the interior remediation or anything. The primary focus of the port is to keep the property secure. We have the fire department, the police department, we have an independent contractor that goes and looks at that mall on a weekly basis, multiple times a week, to make sure that it's secured. The port has spent a significant amount of money resecuring doors that people actually are going in and breaking into the mall. We have had a number of young people from not North County, I would say they're outstate, from Valley Park, Kirkwood, St. Charles, breaking into the mall, doing these urban explorations and running their different kinds of most mobile devices through it to take pictures of the mall. So the biggest challenge and the biggest thing that the port is focused on is keeping the mall secure in order to maintain it as a safe site, given that it is located in a community, and keeping the debris picked up on it. We have a significant amount of dumping that occurs there, and also maintaining the grass.
And the next question, who is considering developing the property and what is their development plan?
As indicated, that information will be disclosed probably in about 6 weeks.
Okay. If another massive apartment complex or senior living facility is built, how do you protect the current aging apartments or senior living facilities?
That would be a question for the planning department.
Okay. Will the developer use local MWBE contractor?
If we enter into a redevelopment agreement with them, those parameters may be included in it. Right now, all of those things have not been decided.
Will this be a viable location for new market tax credits? Do we know why so few proposals were submitted after the RFP circulated?
As we indicated, we communicated with developers locally as well as nationally, and we received what we received.
Has first act been conducted regarding cleanup of Coldwater Creek?
We have not been involved with Coldwater Creek.
What are the current costs in terms of hours or funds to keep the property safe and secure?
I don't have total quantification of it. I can just tell you that today alone, we spent close to $1,500 having doors reboarded.
And what aspects of development are the county willing to take? And there was a repeat question of how much not available for development. I think you mentioned that.
Yeah, and I can't speak for the county.
And what was the acreage not available for development?
Beth, do you have that? You're on mute.
Mute.
Oh, so the site itself is 143 acres. I don't know how much of it is developable because you have to eliminate that Coldwater Creek area, but the balance of the site is, and we don't have that area quantified in terms of acreage.
Thank you. Has the Port Authority looked at getting assistance from government entities such as HUD, State Economic Development, or other state entities that may be able to assist in development?
This Port Authority, I don't believe has had any discussions with the state. Those discussions could occur moving forward once we understand the incentive package is being requested.
There was a past plan with Costco as a hub, surrounded by mixed use and green space. Did anything come of this?
I have no knowledge of that project.
Okay. Is there still time for new developers to bid on this project?
The timeline for RFP submissions ended last September 2020. That would be a decision that would have to be made by the Port Authority.
Would the ULI report conclusions, recommendations still be valid, or have other factors overtaken by more recent economic trends?
I would suggest that given that that report was done prior to the recession, prior to the pandemic, the total changes in the market across the board, housing, retail, everything has totally changed. It would have to be revisited. It is too old at this point.
Why haven't the buildings been torn down to avoid having to secure the mall, like what was done in St. Charles at the old Noah's Ark?
Cost.
And what source of news media would the announcement be made? I guess the announcement for the developer.
It would be partially, that would probably be done by the developer in concert with the Port Authority, and it would probably be the traditional news that we use. All of the papers of national, countywide distribution, the Post-Dispatch, the American, as well as the county, and those would be the three that I would think of right off the bat.
The announcement is in 6 weeks. Will it be an agreement to develop the property, or will it be a proposal in which there will be community input?
It will be the finalization of the contract with the proposed developer that's currently in place. And as County Executive Page says, it has to go through the zoning and the planning department, at which time the public will have an opportunity to comment on the development.
What urgent actions is the board taking to move this forward with more expediency? Other areas such as Northwest Plaza, St. Charles have moved forward faster. Is there really a plan?
Well, as was indicated, there are negotiations ongoing with the developer. They are in their due diligence period, and once that's over, it will go into a public process.
And what impact does Kohl Water Creek play in that development?
I can't speak to any elements related to their proposal.
Okay. And would planning and zoning be able to recap their next step following the announcement of the developer?
That would be a question for Gail Schote and our County Executive Page.
And are there cameras installed at the mall to see who's doing the vandalism?
Unfortunately, the salvage operations that occurred a number of years ago removed all of the infrastructure that would have been necessary in order to install those cameras.
Is it still the case that a figure of $100,000 accompanying the RFP and the total purchase price be available upon acceptance?
That information is not available at this time.
With the construction work on 367, have perceptions of access changed since highways 270, 70, 170, and 67 from Alton or nearby, since this was once thriving that made the expansions? Have perceptions of access changed?
Not markedly. It's not on a highway.
Who was involved from the community in the Kohl study, and how was it communicated? How can we assure that true input was received from all the community?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Who was involved from the community in the Kohl study, and how was it communicated? Also, how can we ensure that true input is received from all the community?
The Kohl report is what you're referencing. When that report was done, an effort was made to contact every community organization in North County, every organization, North County Inc., the legislators that were there. If you look at the front table of the thing, it'll tell you all of the organizations that had representation, as well as members of the general community, because it was widely advertised.
Does the cost of securing this site justify not tearing it down? Were the developers that revitalized Northwest Plaza, Crestwood Plaza, and the Street of St. Charles approach to develop the Jamestown Mall site?
As we indicated, the RFP was issued to every local developer as well as an extensive list of national developers.
And it's the first opportunity for public comment with planning and zoning. If that is true, how will planning and zoning evaluate community benefits?
Once again, that's a question for Gail Schote, the county planning and zoning.
Has the demographics of North County changed since the Kohl study?
Councilwoman Webb, I believe, was probably in a better position to respond to that question.
So would you repeat that question, please?
Have the demographics of North County changed since the original Kohl study?
Yes, and I don't have those exact numbers, but the demographics in North County has changed. Not only the demographics, but the financial stability of North County has changed since the Kohl study. So that is impactful to what is viable options to come to North County. And what I will do is get those details for you and have this posted on our site. So all of the questions that we have here, we're going to try to recap answers so people can go back to them and refer and get those specific details. Thank you for that question.
What happens if the prospective developer backs out? How much would it cost to raise the mall and just walk away?
As previously, if they're referring to the port undertaking that, as previously indicated, we have not quantified the total cost of removal of the buildings and all of the parking surfaces from the site.
Are the new developers opening a mall or what?
Once again, that information is not publicly available yet.
Excuse me, so Shantae, we have about 2 minutes to the top of the hour, and we're going to use the last 30 minutes for a public comment. So let's ask one more questions, and then we'll give a break. She's been doing a phenomenal job and giving us the feedback and details that she knows.
Is the new plan expected to take 15 years as well? I'm concerned people will leave North County for other areas that better serve their needs.
When the details of the proposal are made public, that question will be answered.
Well, thank you, Shantae. And thank you, Ms. Jackie, for answering those questions as thoroughly and as openly as possible. North County District 4, this is a process. And I said that we were going to be, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. So I don't want you to get weary in good doing and doing the due diligence. We have to be aware because now the ball is rolling. So we need the context of the past. We needed the thoughts of what the future could look like, even with limited information. But the table has been set. So I want us to make sure that we keep this in mind. We cannot walk away. We can't get weary and say, I'm not going to another meeting, because your voices have to be heard in order for them to take our community seriously. So stay. I was so impressed with how many joined us today. I don't know if all of them are from North County, but I'm very grateful. At this time, we will use the remaining 30 minutes of this meeting, or however many comments we have, to allow you to actually come online and speak to the panel, not just the panel, that are interested and have some impact, like the planning zoning. They wasn't on the panel, unfortunately, but they are listening. So I want to make sure that you have that opportunity to speak clearly. At this time, Mr. Rob, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Shantae, do you have the list of the first community member?
I don't have one. Rob, is that you?
I just posted and asked anyone who wanted to speak to go ahead and indicate that at this time. If someone did indicate that earlier, I apologize. Okay, we do have one. First is Earl Childress. So let me find him in the participants and I will give him the ability to speak. Just give me one moment, please.
Yes, sir.
I have to view all the attendees and find him. So
So that maybe is a lesson learned going forward. You may do pre-registration. We want to make sure people can register and get online the day of. So maybe that's something we can take into consideration.
absolutely.
And after that, Mary Lou Walsh.
Okay, there's Mr. Childress, and he now has been given the ability to speak.
Hi, Mr. Childress, are you there?
I am. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. You have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Awesome. Won't take that long. I just first want to thank you and the panel for coming on and being able to explain what's going on with the Jamestown Mall project. As we spoke with you earlier, we're very concerned about what's going on, and we want to see our community and neighborhood improve. And there's other issues on the line, but right now we're talking about Jamestown Mall. The question I have, and I think it was one of the questions that I've been asking from day one, with this project, will it be public funds used or private funds, or is there a combination of both? The other question, I'm the one who submitted the question about the minority and women-owned businesses, those contractors. As the panelists had mentioned, I'm asking, could you definitely put a request in to make sure that we have local minority and women-owned contractors to help with this, especially from the demolition all the way to the building. We have excellent contractors here locally that can get this job done, and we would love for them to be a part of the project. The other thing that I wanted to ask was the purchase price. It was mentioned that there was a guideline for the purchase price. Can you recall or share with us what that guideline was for the purchase price? And the last thing, and I don't know if you can answer this right now, but I would love to know what is the expectation for the financial or the economic impact that this will have on North County, and then to the county as a whole. And I guess one of the other questions I have is, when the tax revenue come from this development, how would that be divided up? Would that tax revenue be used mostly in North County, or would it be used to go throughout the entire St. Louis County? Would that be spread out through South County and West County as well? And so, because we'd love to see North County get some love up there financially. And so that's all I have for now, but I will be in this the long haul with you. So I'm quite sure it's not the last.
Thank you, Mr. Childress. I don't know, Ms. Beth or Ms. Jackie, if you want to address any of the questions that Mr. Earl shared with us. I was trying to write as fast as I could, Mr. Earl, but I only could go so fast. But if we don't, or if we're not able to answer the questions right now, we'll definitely document it and provide feedback online.
Well, one thing I can say, there was no guidance on the purchase price, but anytime a public entity sells property, we are required to secure an appraisal. So, but there was no guidance to any of the developers on price. So I know that was one.
Yeah, and then on the private public funds, right now, that is still in discussion. It will be significant private funds, but there is a request for some degree of public assistance. It is unclear what that is at this point in time. And I guess I should mention that the county does have a minority utilization program, as does the Port Authority. So those are all things that are issues of concern to both the county and the Port Authority. And yes, they will probably be addressed with this project.
Our next speaker, Ms. Mary Lou Walsh.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for taking quick action after your election on the whole situation with Jamestown Mall. I represent the community that lives between Coldwater Creek and the property of Jamestown Mall, which is Fox Manor subdivision. I don't represent them officially, but I'm a resident there. And it's 7 long years of decay and turmoil up at the Jamestown Mall has led us all to be very dismayed. We did get some cleanup, but most of that was on the west side. We live more on the east side, which has been left in the same situation it was before. We have an infestation of snakes and rodents that come down into our properties. And I guess my main concern is that when you are developing this property, that you take in consideration our property as we sit right behind you, and your construction, your clearing out of the debris and everything will have a definite impact on our residents and our well-being. Can you address this issue of what you consider with us in regards to the development?
Well, Ms. Walsh, we will make sure that now that you've given us this information, we will pass it on to the developer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh, for your comments. And it's very important that we be mindful of your residents and your community right behind Jamestown Mall. And my hope, and I hope those who will hear me clearly, is that I am impressed with what the zoo does to communicate to their community. And there is room to improve. And I hope this developer takes that in consideration. That it's important that you be proactive about your communication and that you be consistent in your communication. Thank you again, Ms. Walsh. The next speaker is?
It will be, let's see, make sure we're, Robert Miller. Mr. Miller, you have the floor.
All right, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. First of all, I want to thank you for this forum, for this informational session with Jamestown Mall and the struggles that we've been going through trying to make that area in North County the best it can be. Secondly, I was wondering, I know that the zoo is doing something in North County area. I was just thinking maybe a partnership of some kind, if that could be possible, to piggyback or partner with the zoo to even make that area even better, because in close proximity to where they're going to be doing their thing. So that could be something that we can look into and say, hey, is there a way that we can use the Jamestown Mall area to enhance what you're doing in North County?
Mr. Miller, I would like to just point out what you just said, that the zoo, that entity, that new development, we just passed some legislation to support some other legislation for Powerplex. My thoughts, and I want to share this with our community, is I want to look at this area for a regional development. We have the zoo development, we have the Powerplex that could come to fruition, and then we have Jamestown Mall. We have had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Joel from the Zoo Development Partnership to talk about developing the corridor and not bypassing the neighborhoods going to that attraction. And so I think it is mindful, and we're all aware of it. I just would like for people to not just put the plans out there, but put some actions behind those plans to ensure that that economic development does not bypass our community. I know that the Spanish Lake Economic Development Partnership is working in that capacity as well. And the overall St. Louis County Economic Development is aware. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I think if we stop compartmentalizing everything and start thinking of things on a regional, that will be true community development that will benefit us all long-term. So thank you for bringing that to the forefront, Mr. Miller, and I appreciate your comments and your attendance today.
The next person is Russell Maines. You have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for this forum. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, as a resident of North St. Louis County for over 50 years, sometimes it's advantageous to actually see and hear, and studies are very productive, but when you actually see and hear what's going on around you, it can be advantageous also. And we live in a subdivision that was built, was proof that it was viable. Well, malls in general have not been viable, but just because we aren't located on a major highway, we are near a highway that has just received major redevelopment. People used to come from Alton. You have access to 270, 70, 170. And I just think that this is a prime location for not only mixed use, but, and I'm the one that asked the question about, because one of the proposals in the past was a Costco sort of hub with maybe residential senior living, green space, and even the Coldwater Creek area is a great opportunity for also green space. So those are all ideas that have been floated, and I hope with the people that are involved now that this will really come to fruition, because I do believe the sports complex that's being developed at the Mills and what's been done with Crestwood Mall, with Northwest Plaza, that there's a real opportunity for Jamestown Mall, the old Jamestown Mall, and there has been for quite a while. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Maines, and I totally agree with you. We have that potential and we do want to leverage off of that. So we will, again, this is not a one and done situation. This is long-term. And so I want us to stay engaged and keep everybody accountable. Thank you again, sir, for joining us today. Next speaker, Mr. Rob.
The next speaker will be Aaron Craig. Aaron, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
I certainly thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you for your effort. This has been excellent and long overdue. And I've heard you say it more than once. It's an ongoing process, but do we have a time frame when we'll take the next step via meeting again? Thank you.
Miss Jackie, I know Miss Jackie said that in 6 weeks, they will have some decisions and feedback from the potential buyer for Jamestown Mall development or that area. So one thing that I want to make sure is that we communicate. I said that when I knocked on your door. So in 6 weeks, or maybe 7, depending on what part of the week they actually make the announcement, we'll be having another time for us to come together for the District 4 family to discuss what's going on at Jamestown Mall. Every time they come out with another piece of information, I want to make sure that this community is aware. I want to make sure that you are engaged and you have the facts. So it won't be another 9 months, another 15 months, another over a year and a half before we get communication again. That time has passed. So thank you, Mr. Craig, for chiming in today. And I look forward to seeing you in 7 weeks at most.
I don't have anyone else requesting to speak unless I've overlooked you. And if I have, I apologize. I'm looking back through the people that posted questions or requests. We did have a few more questions come in that I sent over to Shantae in the interim. Shantae, do you want to read those questions and we'll see if anyone else has comments?
One of them I saw was, what type of incentives would the developer receive for developing Jamestown Mall?
So I'll give Jackie a break. We do not know. We have not had a discussion about what kinds of incentives they are seeking.
Okay. Will you be emailing the website address so we can keep in contact and provide input? How many people signed up for the web? I guess these are questions that we'll answer offline.
So Shantae, I can say that we had over 252 people at one time
Yeah,
tuned in.
yeah, we
And we
did.
still currently have over 200 still listening attentively. And I appreciate you all being here from the beginning to the end. That's what it's going to take, being here from the beginning to the end. So I want to make sure that everybody knows how to contact me, because I think I saw a question about, I had no other way to get in contact with you. So please, Shantae, put all of our contact information in the chat box. I encourage everyone on this call that can hear my voice to go to www.shalondaware.com or email me at info@shalondaware.com or at sweb.stlewis.co.com. So those are vast opportunities for you to get in contact with me. Also, you can go on Facebook. I'm not the most social media person, but you can go on Facebook and there are updates and feedback there as well.
We had one more person, Ellen Let's Go, who I think she sent that to me privately. May I speak? Can you
Sure.
get him? Thank you.
Yeah. I'm looking. I apologize. I have to scroll through the entire
okay.
list. There she is. Okay. Okay, Ellen. You now can speak. You have the floor for 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I guess I want to thank everyone who participated tonight. I know that we needed to hear a history of where we have been and where we're going. So I appreciate that, but I think with the focus needs to be on where we're going. While the studies have been done in the past and their conclusions, came to different conclusions at different points in time, the facts are that our situation right now, our economic situation, is far different than it was when these things began. And so we have to look at where we are today and where we're going. One of the things I would like to ask Shantae and to Shalonda, Councilwoman Webb, I would like to know, the next step we said is the announcement of the name of this developer, and then at the end of the due diligence, and then they begin this process with planning and zoning. And Gail Choda's, I believe, on the phone, but not, on the panel tonight. But I would like to have Gail, if she could, lay out for us in some kind of format that we could review at that time, at that next meeting, what her process is and her timeline for that.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if Gail is still out there if she would like to speak. But if she does, Mr. Rob, if you see her, please give me that invitation. If not, we will reach out to Ms. Gail for the next meeting. So we're going to do this in phases, right? So set the table tonight. Everybody get on the same page. Next meeting with the announcement. We don't need to go back and revisit history. We already have it perfectly clear on it. Now we're ready to go and move forward. And a part of moving forward is to ensure that we know the planning department, what their plans are, because they are integral in this process as well. So they will have an opportunity to be on the panel to address your feedback directly as well. Thank you, Ms. Ellen, for that suggestion, and we appreciate you joining tonight as well.
We have a question from Mr. Howard Butler. Mr. Butler, you have the floor for 2 minutes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I just had a question. I had it in I submitted it earlier. The question I was asking, what is the site being developed into? Whether a mall, a factory, truck stop? I mean, can you tell us, and if you can't tell us what is being developed into right now, could you eliminate truck stop, factory, etc.? That's my question.
Unfortunately, and we're not trying to be coy about this whole thing, it's just that right now we're under an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. We cannot divulge any elements of the proposed project at this time. As we indicated previously, hopefully within 6 weeks, we'll be able to provide a lot more additional information. It's just where we are, and it's just the process for negotiation of real estate transactions that basically prevent us from being able to respond.
All right, Mr. Butler. So again, in that full transparency, in the truthful answer, when that announcement is made, we will open up even more. Not we, the Port Authority will be able to open up even more. And then hopefully shortly after, we'll have a chance to talk to the developer one-on-one as well. So, oh, look who's here. Hi, Ms. Gail. Again, thank you, Mr. Butler. Welcome, Ms. Gail. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Gail Schote. I'm the acting director of the planning department. And I've certainly heard all of the comments, and I was part of almost all of those previous planning studies that Jackie detailed earlier. The steps at the planning department, you know, the public hearing process, as Dr. Sam Page said, it's a 4 to 6 month process. It begins with an application. What we intend to do in the planning department is to have a separate web presence where all of the information that is submitted will be available for viewing, whether it's comment letters, site plans, application forms, everything. And we would have that prior to a public hearing. We would certainly have to hold a public hearing. We've been doing those currently by WebEx meetings similar to this, where you can either speak or you can phone in, or you can just observe and attend the meeting. But our public hearing process involves a lot of getting the word out regarding the meeting. We do a public hearing. Our notice, we send out, we do an email blast, we post a sign on the property, we do postcards to property owners and tenants within 1,000 feet. On a project of this scale, we would certainly expand that. We want to get the word out and get community information and input. Right now, the property is very specifically zoned commercial just for a retail mall. So any change will require that new public hearing. And we have all sorts of different types of zoning districts that can be very specific with regard to the allowed uses and can, you know, be specific about what uses are not allowed. So all of that type of thing will come out, you know, through the public hearing process. And I will certainly detail these steps to Councilwoman Webb and make sure that it's out there on her website too. And certainly take questions at any time from anybody with regard to these steps, these processes, what zoning is all about, et cetera. But I hope that helps just a little bit.
Thank you, Ms. Gill. I appreciate that. Don't worry, we'll have you front and center real soon here. So you'll have that opportunity to hold it down like Ms. Jackie and Ms. Beth did tonight. So we look forward for you and your team coming forth with us and sharing that public forum. Not just public forum, but what the plan is, the execution plan, to make sure that everybody's communicated to and that we're well informed. Everyone on the call, it is 7:24. In respect of your time, I wanted you to know that we only have 6 minutes left tonight. So I see that there's one more person that wants to speak, and I want to make sure Mr. Jones has that opportunity. So can you hear me, Mr. Jones?
Yes, I can.
The floor is yours, sir.
All right, thank you. I had asked a question earlier. Oh, first of all, thank you, Councilwoman Webb, and the panelists for putting this together. I really appreciate it. I'm a 40-year resident of North County. I moved here from Columbus, Ohio, and I've always lived in North County. And so I've seen Jamestown Mall in its heyday, and I watched it slowly die. So I had mentioned earlier that I like what was done in the area in St. Charles, or, you know, where Noah's Ark used to be. And I was wondering if anyone had any data on how well that development has been doing, because I like what they did over there. And when you look at that small area there, you know, versus what could be done similar to that over in that area that's where Jamestown Mall is now, you know, there's that, you know, I could see that really being something that could be a real attraction for North County. And but like I said, I think someone just mentioned earlier that you know, it takes time to do these things, and so you want to be forward looking. If that area is not doing well, then we probably don't want to do that. So I guess that's what I'm asking. Has anyone gathered any data on the developments like that have taken place in other parts of St. Louis? And so that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Miss Jackie, did you have any insight or any feedback you can share on that point?
The only thing I would comment to that is the developer was Cullinan, who did that St. Charles project, was on our list, was communicated with about looking at Jamestown Mall. I don't have any definitive market analysis for how well that project is doing in St. Charles. We don't go into St. Charles County with most of our work.
Thank you for that feedback, Ms. Jackie. And what I will do, Mr. Jones, Shantae, make sure we take a note on this. We'll try to grab some market analysis data just for comparisons and have it for your disposal. Is that fair, Mr. Jones? Oh, he's off the line. Okay, everybody, it is 7:27, and before I end tonight, I want to make sure I give our guests a final word or any comments. I am so graciously appreciative of them joining us today and being front and center, but you took it like a champ, and I appreciate our audience because I like the way we're having this conversation. You know, it's okay to ask questions. It's definitely okay to ask questions. That's how we learn, but we always need to be tactful and gracious. And so I appreciate you, District 4, for doing just that. Ms. Wellington, Ms. Beth, either you have any final remarks?
Well, my only remark is I appreciate the interest from the community in the site. It's been something that of all the years that I know that I have been involved with the Jamestown Mall, with the Port Authority and the partnership previously, the community has always been very interested, and we've always tried to be very responsive. Not always as successful as we'd like to have been, but we can assure you that your public entities have been really focused on Jamestown and trying to do something positive and productive for the community. So thank you all for your comments and or questions. And also thank you, Councilwoman Webb, for putting this town hall on. I think it was very important for the community to understand the history because people come and they go into the community. So we appreciate that and we thank you.
Thank you.
So that I can add anything to that other than I do really appreciate the time this evening, as well as the very thoughtful questions that this group had. It's really nice. It's nice to hear you being interested and being so thoughtful about your community. It's great to see. So thank you all.
Welcome. Thank you, Ms. Beth. Thank you, Ms. Jackie. Ms. Kohl Walker, I know you're the representative for the county exec's office. Do you have any closing comments?
No, I don't. Not any that I think could beat the dog barking. So just thank you so much for having us, and thanks for all the information. I really do appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Gail, did you have anything else to share or closing remarks?
Not tonight. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So again, thank you, North County. I cannot allow us to drop off the line without us being able to say thank you to Mr. Rob. I wish I had my applause hands. Thank you for holding it down for us tonight, all on yourself, by yourself, with a really large turnout. So thank you. North County District 4, hear my voice and hear me clearly. We're in this together. We're in it for the long haul. We are grateful for the steps that came before us, but now we stand tall to walk forward in a prosperous future together. I am here to serve you. I hope you got all my contact information. Oh, don't forget about the YouTube channel. I'm not that good, but go to the YouTube channel. It's District 411. Please join us and get weekly updates on video. I'm trying to get into that social media, everybody. I'm really trying. But what I know that I do, and I want to continue to do from the depths of my soul, is to serve the people of North County. Everything that I do with North County in mind as it pertains to serving and governing this area. I have two questions when people come to me. Does this help North County or will this hurt North County? And then I will proceed accordingly. So know that I am here. My purpose is to serve you. Thank you so much. Stay in contact with me. Oh, that was one question. I can't let the night go. Someone asked me about trash. Go to our website. I'm going to have Shantae put some information up. We'll work together. I understand that the trash is out of control, but be gracious to Public Works because it's a team of like 5 people that are not just servicing North County. They're serving South County as well, unincorporated. So that's a whole nother story. But what we're going to have to do, North County, is come together with our organizations and our churches and pull out our little trash bags and pick up the trash as we walk down the street, because this is our community. One thing Fisk University taught me is that you don't wait on somebody else to do something for you. You do it on your own. So again, North County, I appreciate you. I love serving you, and we will work towards our future together. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. I'm only 2 minutes over. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.